Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and I'm excited about our guest today, Chelsie Tamms. We met a month ago or a couple of months ago on a group call, and we were in one of those little breakout rooms, and we started talking, and I was like, man, you need to be on my podcast. And here she is. So I'm going to read her bio and bring her on. She's pretty cool and impressive. Okay, so Chelsie Tamms is a lettering artist and entrepreneur. She founded her design studio, Lettering Works, in 2016 after winning startup funding from her university, which allowed her to bypass the corporate world. Since then, Chelsie has grown her business to offer custom branding packages, courses, and consulting for artists and wholesale products and merchandise, all with the mission of bringing more creativity into her community and beyond. With a fewer, better things approach, Chelsie loves leveraging passion projects to grow her business and impact. She's especially drawn to cases surrounding mental health, chronic illness, and underrepresented communities. So without further ado, let's meet Chelsie. Hey, Chelsie, welcome.
Hi, Iris. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when we were talking in the breakout room, I think, was Casey in there also?
I think so. That sounds right.
I think you and Casey, we're all talking about neurodivergence and like all the things, and I love that. Like I've had a few people on that have been really focusing their work on neurodivergence, and I think it's really important because I think it's something that is overlooked a lot. So so tell us about Chelsie.
Yeah. So like you introduced me, I bypassed the corporate world and really got into entrepreneurship right out of college. So I won $10,000 in startup funding from my university as a senior. And that really helped me make the decision to jump right into entrepreneurship. And originally I had wanted to work in advertising, maybe move to Chicago and work at one of the big advertising firms, but took this unconventional path and just started my own business. And a lot of things kind of fell into place. And I figured a lot of things out along the way. As you mentioned when we've talked previously, there's no such thing as an overnight success for like almost all businesses. There's been a lot of thoughts, ideas, and things that happen leading up to that makes things more successful. Or fast forward 8 years, 10 years, whatever year you are in business, it looks a lot cleaner, more successful, and happier than it might have at the start. So I started doing a lot of art and figuring out what I wanted to do as a dream business through passion projects. And I've been repeating that same model essentially to this day. But it's looked a lot different over time, incorporating more mental health, incorporating more chronic illness themes, just diversity, and trying to represent communities that often get overlooked, I think is an important way to be able to use creativity and passion in a way that gives that some space and attention. So I love doing that. And what that looks like as a business is often working with local nonprofits, small local businesses on things like branding and custom design. And then I have my own line of art products, which I sell at different museums, independent retailers all throughout the US.
Yeah. And you're doing like all of these like multifaceted things. And so a lettering artist, so is that like making new fonts or like what is that?
I love this question because I get it all the time. I like to describe lettering as just writing or illustrating letters. So instead of using your typical fonts, I'm creating those by hand. And what that typically looks like for me is business applications. So that's like a logo or custom merchandise where somebody wants it to be really custom and unique to their business. So instead of picking a font that might be the most popular font right now, I create something really custom that they can really own as their own unique piece of merchandise or piece of branding and do something really custom. So with lettering, I like to say there's not really any rules. You can draw things however you want to get the end result that you want. And a lot of times people bring up calligraphy. When they hear lettering, they're like, oh, calligraphy, is that the same thing? And it's actually not the same thing. Calligraphy is much more of your traditional writing. There's rules to it. There's the upstrokes and the downstrokes. And I see lettering as kind of the no rules, just have fun. It's illustrating predominantly letters. So I do have some illustrative elements outside of letters in the work that I do, but I like to consider myself somebody who focuses on the words themselves and trying to elevate them in a way that really makes it interesting for people to put out into the world and get some more traction. So I always love that question because it is a popular career these days, but also one that's like pretty niche and specific. So sometimes people are like, does that mean you design type or fonts, or what does that mean? And for me, it just means I get to draw letters for the bulk of the work that I do.
I love that. I think that's so awesome. And I think that, it makes sense because each, especially a solopreneur, everybody has like their own personality, and to have a font to reflect that, I think that's awesome. And it's very unique, right? And it keeps it very, not just part of the brand, but just part of the identity. So I think that's really cool that you do that. And so how did you win $10,000 from your university?
Yeah. After coming back from my internship over the summer to college, I realized that I could really turn it into a full-time business, or I could at least aspire to do that. So I started looking for different resources on campus. And that's when I found the entrepreneurship department and the student entrepreneurship competition, which I participated in and ultimately won the $10,000. And I think really the reason that I was able to win was because I was really passionate about what I was doing. So other teams were in the entrepreneurship department. And of course, they had great business ideas, but they didn't have that same drive of like, I'm going to do this either way. You can give me the funding, you cannot give me the funding, but this will always be part of my life, whether it's a side hustle or a full-time thing. I think that ultimately led to winning that startup funding and put me on the path to just go for that right out of college. So I was able to split my time as an artist and learning as an entrepreneur right into that, bypassing the corporate world and just having a lot of fun with it. And that was all thanks to having that funding as kind of that runway that's otherwise really hard to build up when you're right out of school.
Oh, absolutely. And to have that, I think is like amazing because a lot of people don't get that. And one of the first things that when I ask people the question I'm going to ask you, which is, what advice do you have for somebody thinking about being, becoming an entrepreneur? It's always like save your money if you can, right? Like get some kind of money because, there are some people that, don't have that fortune where they have to either, save money up or figure it out because, sometimes people I started my business because I got fired from my job and it was like collect unemployment, work for somebody again or do something else. And it was like, I'm not working for anybody again. So I'm going to make this work. And, so for me, that's what it was. But I just think that it's really awesome that, you had that drive because, I think that's like another thing is a lot of people want to start their own business, but that the drive is there for a little while, right? And then it goes away. It's like they do it and then they're like, oh, okay, I'm going to do it because I have to, but having that drive to wanting to, succeed or, do it no matter what, I think is really huge. So like, have you had any, has this been nice and easy? Has it been smooth? Have there been bumps in the road?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think there's always going to be bumps in the road. I think that's the nature of entrepreneurship. So going back to the advice that you just shared, you need to have a drive that will get you through some of those challenging times. Entrepreneurship's not for the faint of heart. It's not something that you can just do to have fun. It is a lot of fun, but there are parts that suck. I think that's inevitable with anything. So it's a matter of figuring out your tolerance for some of those things. And it's a matter of figuring out what motivates you to do this. And that motivation, if that drive and excitement is strong enough, you can definitely conquer anything in your business and you can keep moving forward. But if you're doing it out of a very like scarcity mindset in a desperation to just bandage up something, have a quick solution, I don't think it's the end goal for those people. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to want to be an entrepreneur or not, but it's just a matter of figuring out, is that in your nature? And if it's not in your nature, are you willing to learn what it takes to figure it out and to make it more of your nature? Because I don't think it's 100% inherent. It's something inherent within you, but then it's also a lot of learning and figuring out and being willing to have things be hard. Because especially as a freelance designer, primarily, there are times where when it rains, it pours, everything's happening. There's projects galore. There's all these things. And there's other times where it's really quiet. And those are the moments where you're like, should I be doing this? Should I give up? Like every entrepreneur has had at least 100 moments, if they've been in business for 10 years, of wanting to give up. And it's just a matter of being able to pivot from those moments. So I think the short answer to that, has it been easy? No, it's never easy. But one quote that I always resonate with is, it doesn't get easier, you get better. And I think that's so true for entrepreneurship, because the first day, it's really everything's new, everything's hard. But then you start to figure these things out and you can take on a harder problem, a bigger opportunity, and you can use those skill sets and apply them. And I think that's what's really cool about entrepreneurship. And some people are like, that sounds fun, sign me up. And others are like, can you just tell me what I need to do? I don't want to figure it out. And I think that's really the difference. And that would be my ultimate advice for somebody who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. Are you willing to put in the work? Are you willing to deal with it being hard? And if the answer is no, then maybe put your energy into finding a job that you would love, because there's great jobs out there. It's not that you can't go that path. There's no shame in either path. It's about finding what's right for you.
Right. Oh, 100%. And for me, it was funny because, I've had, I started it, everything was great. And then 6 months later, I had shoulder surgery. So I was like down for a month and my pipeline just like disappeared. Like I had a full pipeline, but after being gone, for a month and people needed their projects and all this other stuff. And I was like high for a month because of the, shoulder surgery. I couldn't function. I literally had to start from scratch again. And I remember, fast forward, to when we were 7 years old, because now we're 10 years old. And it was really not a reinventing of it, but it was a like a reorganization of it, right? So it was what other skill set can I use to add to what I'm already doing? And it was really interesting. I had signed a non-compete, so there were certain things that I couldn't do. So I had to tap into like this other thing. And like you said, if the drive's not there, but I also know I'm unemployable. I could never work for anybody again, right? It was just like one of those things that it's like, I work for people. I really believe that I should have been an entrepreneur probably like 30 years ago, but I didn't have the, not the drive. I probably had the drive. I just didn't have the knowledge and I didn't have the discipline, because you have to be disciplined. Like you have to get up, you have to take a shower, you have to sit in front of your computer and do the thing and not play with the dog for 3 hours or watch TV because you're home for, you know what I mean? It's like you have to really be committed to do the thing. And I was very fortunate in that one of the businesses that I did work for, not my best, it was one of my favorite jobs, just not my favorite job experience, if that makes sense. I loved what I did. I just didn't love who I did it for. But I got to like telecommute. I got to work from home because most of my job was travel. So I had to really discipline myself on okay, you get up and this is what you do. And so I've been doing it for years. So when it came to this, it was like, okay, it's more of the same, except now it's mine. Now it's mine. So that gives me more, impetus to really want to just, do more for it. And I love what I do. And I joke around. I say my boss can be an asshole sometimes, but, it's all good because I'd rather work for this asshole than a different one. But, I think I've had like 3 amazing leaders, and that was the difference. They were leaders, not bosses. And that's what I try to do with my business, is that the people that I have that are my contractors, I make sure that everybody feels valued, everybody, feels appreciated, everybody, feels like they're part of this really awesome team, because I think that that's, a big part of it. So, what, like looking at, I know we're going to talk about like tchotchkes and stuff, but we'll talk about that later. So what is like a growing pain that you might have gone through that a seasoned entrepreneur right now could be going through it, or maybe something you're still going through, or it's an obstacle that you've overcome?
Yeah, I think the biggest obstacle I've overcome is just figuring out what's right for me at the time. Like you highlighted that so beautifully, and just like there's been pivots and changes over the course of your business. And I think that happens for everyone. So there's the growing pains of feeling like, oh, maybe I'm going in a different direction. Or maybe I'm trying to grow and scale, and that requires something different. This idea of what you did to get here isn't going to get you to the next place. Like changes have to be made. And I think in entrepreneurship, so many changes are made all of the time that sometimes that can be exhausting and there can be some fatigue there. But one specific challenge that I feel like I'm kind of in the thick of now that maybe other seasoned entrepreneurs can relate to is that every size or scale of different opportunities come with their own unique set of problems. So it's something that you only, I feel like, learn with time of like, okay, there's the problem of having a sticker order that's really small. Is it worth your time to package this up and send it this way? Sometimes we wonder that. But then on the total other end of the spectrum, okay, cool, you got a really big opportunity, but now there's challenges of certain barcodes and labels are required. So you're kind of back to square one with figuring out, okay, kind of need to redesign some of these products or redesign the process here. And so that same idea of what got you there is not going to get you to the next spot just because you think like, oh, this is just producing more. There's new challenges always popping up. And I think that as an obstacle, that can get frustrating for us because we're like, I figured out all the things. I feel like I finally mastered it. And then the whole thing changes like right underneath you. So I think that's just kind of an ever ongoing problem for entrepreneurs is just like, how do we continue to adapt? And for me, it's just trying to be willing to learning new things, having that curiosity and mindset of, okay, there's going to be new challenges. We're going to figure them out, and kind of repeating that mantra of like, you did this before, this is different, but that idea of like, it's not any easier, but you're better now. You have this new skill set. You have this new experience. You can approach this with more curiosity, with more knowledge, and turn that into something. And I think the other piece that feels really challenging for me right now is when to say, this isn't the right opportunity for me, and when to say this is an expected growing pain, because it's hard to differentiate the two as you've had experience to say, yes, this is normal. This is part of the process. I need to figure this out. It's okay. Versus, you know what? This is really putting me in a position that I don't want to be in anymore. I've outgrown this. And I think that happens a lot of times, especially as creatives. We might get an opportunity that's a little bit too small and isn't worth our time because it doesn't line up with what we're trying to do. So I'm experiencing that on kind of all levels of my business of like, okay, let's evaluate if it has red flags or if it just has growing pains. And if it's red flags, there's a different protocol and process. If it has growing pains, let's see if we can power through and get to the other side.
Right. Wow. I really like the way that you position that. And it's so true. We have a local business here, and it's one of my favorite restaurants. Their food is so good. And like we walk in and we're spoiled. We're family. But it's a restaurant in town that was thinking about opening up a market, right? Then COVID hit and everything shut down. So they pivoted to a market. They were like, you know what? We get meat for the restaurant. We get produce for the restaurant. We get all of these things. So why don't we, rather than we can't cook it, but we can sell the meat and we can sell the, right? So they became this like more online market. And I bought all of my stuff from there. I have like another client who's a specialty market, and we would buy stuff from him, but then he would also just like deliver stuff because he's amazing. But like all of our, produce, like all the things. And they went from, going, holy shit, what are we going to do, to holy shit, look at what we did. And they would put toilet paper and hand sanitizer with every order. So it was just really, really smart. And then after COVID, was over and the restaurant was back open, they actually opened up a market next door that fed the restaurant. So it was just a really brilliant pivot. And a lot of people, you're right. Like a lot of people don't know how to do, they don't, if you're not adaptable, it's going to be really hard to be an entrepreneur because shit changes all the time. Like I'm in the middle of something right now going, okay, I need to kind of move this a little bit, and I'm doing it. But you have to have the wherewithal to be able to do it. And for me, it's like, I've been really lucky, and I'm very grateful that I've been in the position that I can see the pivot coming. So it's like, something here, excuse me, something here in the market, not here, just in general, something here in the market changed. And can I make this pivot? Like I see it coming and, can I get ahead of it? So I try to get ahead of everything. I would say probably 80% of the time I'm really fortunate and I get to do that. There's that other 20% that it's like, oh crap, like you don't see it coming and it's like, it's here. And the other thing that you said that is so true is entrepreneurship is not for the weak of heart, right? It's not. Because of all of the pivots that you're going to have to make, because of all of the things that you're going to have to adapt to. And I think the biggest obstacle is our mindset. Because when something happens and it shifts and we're like, oh, shit, now what? If we can't get past this, we're screwed. Because this right here, our mind, you can't, if you're listening and you're not watching the video, I am pointing to my head, because if we cannot get past our mindset and limiting beliefs, we're screwed. So we have to really, I think, work past that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that.
Go ahead. Oh, okay.
The mindset is so huge. And everything you just said, if you can't get past that, it's probably not for you, or like you're going to get stuck. So it can be for you, but you're not going to get to the next level, because if you have those limiting beliefs, you'll stay stuck in that pattern, in that cycle. And we're probably getting into entrepreneurship because we want to build this life that we dream of, not to stay super small and like maybe be successful one day. Like we want to be successful. And I think there's all different mindsets around that too. Like what does success look like for each person? And everything, all of those definitions can be different, and that's beautiful and great. But the mindset is such a big piece. And if you're not willing to learn about mindset and work on your mindset, you're setting yourself up, maybe not for failure, but a disservice to yourself, because you're not going to reach your full potential.
Right. I see. That's so good. And I think that, when I think there are two types of businesses. There's a lifestyle business and there's a legacy business. And the legacy business is the business that you want to grow and leave it to your family or make it be this like whole, thing. And then there's a lifestyle business, which is where we have our business and yes, we want to make a difference, but we want to do it, for whatever and, make our money and then, go from there. And I think that, with that in mind, people also need to figure out like, what do they want? Like for me, it started out, I thought I wanted a lifestyle business. And it turned out that I don't. I want to sell this, but I want to sell this to somebody with the same, like I don't just want to sell it to sell it. I want to sell it to somebody who's going to service my existing clients the way that I do, who has the same heart, the same soul, if you will, the same, I guess, heart of service. So that's where the legacy piece comes in for me. Like and there are other people that just like sell their business and they're like, okay, take care of the clients, or they let the clients know I'm selling and here you go. But for me, it's like, I want it to be that, and it's not going to be years from now, but I'm selling and I want you to know that you're going to be taken care of. Because I have my vision board and my number one thing on there is that my clients are safe. Because if we look at it, we have a big responsibility in making sure that our clients' businesses grow, right? And that we're doing it for the right reasons. I think there are a lot of businesses out there that are doing it for their right reasons, but maybe not necessarily the client's right reasons. And for me, it's, I take what I do very seriously because I know that if I make a misstep, it's really going to affect my client's business. So I try to really look at things from what if that was my business, right? Like, what if it was me hiring me? What would I expect? And that's how I try to run my business.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think for me, I've fallen more in the camp of a lifestyle business. And I've had an interesting journey with that. I love that you brought it up because when I first got started in business, I felt like the surrounding community or just where I was getting into entrepreneurship had such a negative connotation around lifestyle business. It was like, you're thinking too small. It was almost applying these like negative limiting beliefs and mindsets to like, lifestyle business isn't what you want. Like that's just you and small and you're just creating a job for yourself. And whether or not that's the exact message people were saying, that's how I perceived it of just this, you're too small. Like you need to be thinking about when you can make your first hire. And it took me a while to like get over that hump and realize, wait, we can redefine this to whatever we want it to be. And since moving from Central Illinois in a smaller town to Chicago and finding a bigger community and finding a different community, I've surrounded myself by people who love the idea of a lifestyle business, who love the perks of it. Because of course there's different perks of a legacy business model or a lifestyle business. And you might even be in one at one point and then grow it to the other or vice versa. It doesn't have to be like you pick one and there's no turning back. And so I feel like I'm in this season of loving the lifestyle business model and loving this like reclaimed, like it can be what you want. It can be values focused. You can find like-minded people. You can grow in a way that you want to grow. And I think there's some similarities in like my beliefs around that with what you're saying of like, if I'm going to sell my business, I'm going to sell it on my terms to somebody who I trust with it. It's not just a financial decision. There's so much more to it. And I think that's the other piece of entrepreneurship. You are putting yourself into the business inherently, whether just at the start or for the whole thing. So you can't separate the two a lot. And that's why you need like a really tough mindset to go up against it because you're putting yourself and your soul and your heart into the work. So if you do that and you're not ready to like kind of protect yourself and like be thoughtful and connect with the work in a way and like take a break from it when you need to, you're not going to be able to weather all the terrain that comes with entrepreneurship.
Right. And there's a lot. And, I'm looking at your bio and, one of the things that, you talk about is leveraging passion projects, to grow your business and your impact. And I think impact is really important. And I love that you're, drawn to, mental health, chronic illness, and underrepresented communities. And we have that in common, as well. I run a not-for-profit that raises money and awareness for, obscure organizations in our community that, tackle social issues. And I think, there's, especially now, and I'm hoping, this is going to air in October, so we're still a couple of weeks away. Damn it. Okay. Well, I'm hoping a couple of weeks after this airs that we're in a similar place that we're in now, in that, we have an administration that is looking at things through a kindness and compassionate lens. Because I think that so many people have moved away from that. And it's like a me thing. And I saw the best meme the other week, and it had one person and they were leaning against something and it said me. And then the other person, I'm trying to, well, you know what I mean, but the other person was leaning on it and turned the M upside down to a W, and it became we. And that's where I think, for me, the differences lie, is that there are so many in our community that need, right? In any community. And what can we do to make our communities better for these people? So talk about that a little bit, like, your passion projects and working with mental health and chronic illness, and like what was the impetus for that, or the catalyst for that?
Yeah, I think I've done so many different passion projects, so it's hard to pick just one. But the first that comes to my mind, well, there's two. So I'll say the first that comes to my mind is about having a strong impact on a smaller amount of people, and like really leaning into like, what if we could have that positive impact? So I did a project back in maybe 2019, maybe 2018, when I still lived in Peoria, called Steph Stickers. And it was centered all around creating a sticker out of a design of one of my friends. I first became friends with her mom as an artist in residence, and we had some overlap in the art community and have since become great friends. And then I met her daughter through her. And we created this sticker, which then snowballed into, as she calls it, her micro business. But Steph Stickers was all about empowering her to have something that she could be really excited about sharing. And it worked so well because we were able to just do the thing. And I think that a lot of times we get caught up in the, well, what's the budget for this? Is this feasible? Et cetera, et cetera. And this project just so organically and beautifully happened, where it started as a single sticker. She had a design that she made as a result of taking one of my lettering workshops. And all I felt like I was doing was just like vectorizing it and getting it ready to be printed and then printing it for her, which I didn't even handle the printing myself. So it was just, I'm producing this for you. To me, that was very simple. But in reality, it was connecting her to a resource she didn't have. She didn't know how to do those things. So it was empowering, creating the physical thing. It was taking her idea, her work, and making it something tangible that she could give out. And that just had such a huge impact. Like, we ended up getting on the local news. She was able to hand out these stickers. We created several more sticker designs. She had a table at a local event. Just all these beautiful things happened. And that was a result of leaning into, like, the goal for me wasn't all of those things. The goal was just making a sticker for her that she could hand out when she was having a knee replacement surgery, and we just wanted something light and fun and happy to distribute during that time. But it turned into so much more. And I think that's the power of passion projects, is that start with small expectations, but like kind of a dream and a hope, and see where it goes. So that's the first that comes to mind, because that just had such an organic growth. And I think organic growth sometimes can only really come out of that passion and that like cross section between people are interested in this and you're telling a meaningful story and you care enough about it to like pour yourself into it. The second project that comes to my mind is around kidney disease. So I was diagnosed officially with kidney disease in 2019 and launched a project around a renal diet because of frustration. So I think some of the projects have come of like, oh, I can see myself making an impact in an easier, like this would be easy for me. Let me do this. And on the other end of the spectrum, there's been projects that have come out of, I don't know what I'm supposed to be eating. This is frustrating. What if I made it more fun for me to do the research and learn and share those learnings with other people? And I ended up realizing that the part of coming up with a menu or coming up with meal options was still very difficult. And so I ended up hiring a dietitian to do that part. But I built out a whole brand around this renal diet called Cool Beans, made like tons of mock-ups, which just showed all of the ideas. And then there's a downloadable menu as well that has actual suggestions that are helpful if you have a renal diet. There's so many nuances and complexities there too. So it got a little in the weeds of like, well, this might be for this person and everyone's different. So it was less about here's your like guidebook to how to eat and more about here's a new approach for raising awareness. Even having this project to talk about has been so helpful on podcasts and in interviews because it gives me something to explain that relates to like a cause that's very personal to me. But otherwise I'd just be like talking about some of the not so fun parts. So this gets to have like a fun spin of raising awareness. And I had fun working on the project. It gets to show my work off instead of me just saying, oh, I'm a patient and I don't love that, but it is what it is. Instead, I can say I'm a patient. So that empowered me to raise awareness in this unique and creative way. And now the conversation's not as much about the kidney disease, but it's like, oh, people do have this. So maybe I can look into it or I can be aware of it. But it's also like, look at this creativity and this excitement and taking an idea and turning it into something new, which is the conversation I would rather have because it's much more positive and uplifting than just being like, oh, feel bad for her because she has this condition. But rather, let's talk about how it's actually influenced my creativity and how I've created projects and passion projects so I can keep having my own business, so I can take half a day off to go to a nephrologist appointment, which is happening this week. So building a business that supports those things, I think, is part of the bigger picture too. And everyone's unique passion project has to be unique to them because we all have different contexts and conditions and parameters and goals and values. So being able to make something out of those can be the best way, I think, that we can share ourselves.
Wow, that's amazing. And good for you. I mean, that's literally taking, lemons and making lemonade, right? Because a lot of people get diagnosed with something and they just, not that they give up, but, and I don't know, maybe it's that they don't have the spirit that we have because, they're not entrepreneurs and, it becomes harder. But I love when I hear stories of, people, not that people got sick, but you know what I mean? People get diagnosed with something and they just take it and run with it. I think that's so huge and empowering, and it's such a positive message. So kudos to you. I mean, I have big respect for you and for that. Because I don't know, I think I just turned 64 and, it's like, okay, what's gonna happen? Right. Like, because I'm on the downside of the bell curve now, right? It's not like going up. Now I'm on the other side, and it's I think about that stuff sometimes, but then I hear people like you talking about having kidney disease and doing something positive with it. I think it's huge. So mad respect for that. So what do you? Gosh, mental health is like such a huge, it's such a huge topic now, and it's such a, it's a topic that's not taboo anymore, and I love that. I love that. The Michael Phelps and the Simone Biles, and those people have made it because of their celebrity okay to talk about, and I think. a lot of people now, just in general, like we have Mental Health America, Wabash Valley here, and, we talk about mental health here a lot. As entrepreneurs, I mean, that's something that is huge because, our mental health, I think, has a really big play in it. Like you said, there are days that we can wake up and be like, what the hell was I thinking? There are days we have imposter syndrome. It's like, do I really know what I'm talking about, or am I faking it really well? Right. And I think there's other days that, it's lonely. I wake up, I have my dogs that look at me through this gate. I have to have a gate up because the puppy will come in here and just eat everything that's, out. But, I have this gate, but this is it. Like, this is, I'm this, and then I have like all the meetings that I have, but I'm literally like, when I end a meeting, I go to the bathroom, I'll pet their heads, and I come back in, and it's like, unless I can go to lunch or something like that. And I'm sure people are listening going, poor baby. But, at the end of the day, it's true. It's lonely when we're doing the solopreneur thing. I have my contractors, I have, all the things, but at the end of the day, it is me sitting in my office at home, doing the thing. And sometimes if you're not having a good day, your mental health can really have a big, take a big hit, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think that figuring out whatever works for you, like that's the tricky part of mental health too, is everyone's going to have a different approach. They're going to have different challenges, and they're going to have different potential solutions. So for me, finding community and connecting with that community when I need to is very helpful, but also like trying to design our businesses and our lives in a way that like supports that. Like, do you have a break between meetings so you can go pet the dogs, or you can go on a quick walk? And that, I think, is the beauty of entrepreneurship. It even goes back to like dealing with whatever cards you've been dealt. Like if you're diagnosed with something, like how are you going to move forward? Is it going to be begrudgingly moving forward? Is it going to be positive? Is it going to be trying to be positive, but knowing that you're not going to be positive the whole time? Like there will be slip ups. I think there's just so many parallels with the journey of like any diagnosis and entrepreneurship, which is kind of odd to say, but it's so true. Like there is overwhelm at the beginning, and some people don't make it past that stage of being like, I don't know what to do with this information. I can't do anything. I'm frozen. And they stay frozen, maybe in a different job, or they stay frozen, not taking the action they need to because it's overwhelming. But I feel like entrepreneurship's about, okay, here's what we have to work with. Here's our parameters. Here's our challenges. How are we going to work through that? And so being able to kind of see that journey and then apply it to personal things, and then decide what part of your personal life you want to bring into business, what part you want to keep separate, because that's another thing too. Like even seeing so many famous people really bringing up mental health is incredible, because I think that inspires a lot of people and opens the floodgates. But also, so many small business owners are dealing with things that they don't share. So keeping that in mind too, of just because it is a more welcome topic doesn't mean that everyone's sharing everything. And I think that's also what's beautiful about entrepreneurship, because you can decide what level of yourself you want to put into it, and you can kind of play with those levers and pull yourself back at times, or put yourself out there more if it feels relevant and helpful to do so.
Right. And I think that there are days that I will actually schedule a break in, if I feel, because my days vary, and my days can be like today, tomorrow looks how it looks. And then by the time we get done with this interview, I will go to my calendar and people will have put it on my calendar, and I don't even, because they have the link and they just like hop on. Although there's not a lot of room for tomorrow, but my point is I try to, like midweek. So usually like Wednesdays, I'll in the middle of the day on purpose put about a half hour, 45 minutes in, so that I can, even though it's just once a week, I can go out, play with them. It's nice out, so I can go throw the ball, in the yard and get my feet in the grass and get grounded, because that's like my favorite thing in the world. My wife, it's so funny because I'm trying to get her to like walk barefoot. And it grosses her out. So she's like, I can't do it. So last night, she was like, hold my shoes. It was like so dramatic. And she like got to the middle of the yard and she took off her shoes and she's like, hold these. I said, I'll put them on the grill. So I go over and I put them on top of the grill and she's standing there and she's throwing the ball to Piper. And she had to move to get the ball and like the look of pain on her face. And I was like, instead of looking at this as like this really painful thing, like I was laughing. I was like, instead of looking at this as like this painful thing, you're connecting with Mother Earth. You're connecting with like all of the things around you. So just, and she does mindfulness too. I said, just think of it as a mindfulness thing. And she's like, I can't get the grass failing out of my foot. So she's getting there, but I give her like amazing props for actually doing it because it took me, we're together 22 years. It took me 22 years to get her to take her shoes off in the grass. So I'm going to call that a win, right? But I think that when we give ourselves time and grace, because there's days that, maybe we don't want to do this or, not that we don't want to do it, but, we're looking at a meeting and it's like, oh my God, this is going to suck. Or, whatever. And we just kind of, I think we can psych ourselves out. And what I really try to do is just personally, I try to look at everything as an opportunity. I have a whole list up here. I love that I get to, right? Help people. I love that I get to help businesses grow. I love that I get to do things instead of having to do it. We get to do it. And I think that puts a whole different spin and a whole different, lens on it that we're looking at it through.
Yeah, absolutely. So much of that is the mindset, but also like it takes people different lengths of time to engage with different ideas. Mm-hmm. And I think that just goes back to everything we've been saying about like advice and like do the work and try the things. And like, for me, that's such a big part of entrepreneurship too, is like you have to take action every single day, whether it's one little action or it's a bunch of big actions or somewhere in between. Like your work's not going to magically get done for you. It is up to you to do whatever you want to do, whatever you need to do, whatever you like to do. It all falls on you. And that can be a scary thing, but also that can be a very empowering thing.
Yeah. I think it's how you look. First off, thank you for taking the time today out of your schedule. I know we're all busy and stuff. How do people find you?
Yeah. So the easiest way to find me is my website, which is letteringworks.com. So LETTERINGWORKS.com, or on Instagram or LinkedIn, Chelsie Tamms or Letteringworks.
Nice. And do you have any parting words for the audience?
Yeah, this has been great. I just hope that if anyone has further questions about entrepreneurship or their own journey, that reach out to the other entrepreneurs in your community. Like I know both of us always welcome people reaching out with questions, or if you want to be pointed in the right direction. If you have these ideas in your head, don't just keep it to yourself. Connect with others in your community. So if anyone listening to this episode wants to talk further or have more of a discussion around any of the topics that we talked about, I would definitely welcome that. And I'm sure you would as well, Iris.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I can't believe we're at like an hour already, but we are. The last question I ask all my guests is, what lights your fire?
I think the biggest thing that lights my fire is being able to connect with other people on a deeper level. And I do that through sharing artwork and design. So I really just feel like the actual art creation is what excites me the most, and being able to see its impact once it's kind of went out in the world, whether it's on a small scale or a large scale, and seeing the results kind of pour back in just keeps that fire going to create and be passionate and continuing to do what I love doing.
I love that. I love that so much. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really glad that we were able to get through all of our, and it's not you, every single episode that we have recorded in the past, like, I don't even know, 6 months has had a technical issue. It's been crazy. So thank you for being patient with that. And hang on one second. I'm going to say goodbye to them, and then I'll be right back. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out an hour plus again, as per usual. I hope that you got to know Chelsie a little bit better. And like she said, reach out to her if you have any questions. I thoroughly enjoyed having her on. I think she's pretty awesome. Go out, like, subscribe, download, and review. Please give reviews. Because I say this every week, but that's really what's going to help bump us up, and which I didn't know until recently. So the more reviews we get, the better. And really, I appreciate each and every one of you. I love you all for just hanging out and letting me continue to do this. I love this. This is my passion project. So thank you for letting me do this. And until next time, go out and find what lights your fire. See ya.